Welcome back to Buckle Up Garage. Today we are going to be working on this 2012 Ford Focus. Basic daily driver. The water pump has decided to leak. I don't know if it's leaking out of the O-ring seal or if there's a weed pull on this thing that's let loose, but it decided to leave a puddle, as I say, marked its territory. So let's get to it. So, looked up the labor times on this thing at work, and it calls for 2.7 hours. I've never done them before, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like it's not too horrible. The water pump resides directly right there, underneath this tensioner. States you need to pull the washer reservoir out, you need to unbolt the motor mount and pull the motor up a little bit, from what I'm guessing, because I don't think the axis is too bad. What I'm being told is you'll need that extra room to actually get the water pump pulled out of the case or the block, the housing, whatever it fits in down there, and the tensioner's got to come out of the way. Belt's got to be loosened, but like I said, it shouldn't be too bad, but I guess we'll figure this out as we go. Alright, first thing we need to do is get the reservoir out. Chances are this is going to leak a little bit. Really careful you don't break any clips, which inevitably means I'm going to break clips. Right. Let's see what else we're dealing with here. So loosen up the motor mount. I don't know if you can see this. Show you what I'm seeing. Mount there, bolt there. I think we might want to kind of loosen this up at this connection just to kind of give us some room to get our hands down in there. Let's get those zipped. Alright, these two are 15 millimeters, like most of the things on this vehicle. They're going to be either 10, 13, or 15. Broke loose reasonably easy. And of course, that just dropped to the ground, as they always will. All right, we got the motor mount out. This has got a stud and nut set up on the top. One, the nut came off the stud, the other one pulled the stud out with it. Not really that big of a deal. These the nuts on these were 18 mil, and where we showed here and here is where the lower portion of the mount is. Then we've got the engine jacked up. Highly suggest making sure you got like a board or something underneath that, and kind of spread the weight out so you don't damage the pan. And as you can see, it is up high enough now that you get at the pulley itself. Loosen those up before you pull the belt off so the pulley doesn't turn. Save yourself a lot of headache. I did loosen up the brackets for this AC line so it can be shifted around a little bit to snake things out of here. So next step is pulling the, like I said, loosening the pulley up, and then we get this tensioner out of the way. And try not to lose track of how the belt is routed. If you're lucky, it doesn't move a whole lot, and you can get right back up where it needs to be. All right, pulley's off. And as I'm kind of looking at this, it says you got to pull the tensioner out of the way. I don't think you really do. I mean, other than just backing the belt off of it. Once you got the bolts cracked loose on the pulley. So I'm just gonna kind of skip that part. I don't think I really need to do it. I might learn otherwise here. I'm not sure, but let's keep going. All right, one tip. The problem with jacking the motor up when you're doing this in your driveway is the jack then is directly where you need your catch pan to be to get any coolant that's going to fall out of this thing, which there's going to be. So pay no attention to the sketchy way that I kind of blocked the engine up to take the jack back out, but it does lower it a little bit, or in my case it lowered a little bit, but I was still able to get to all the 3 bolts that are holding the pump housing in. That is 8mm. They all crack loose pretty easy. Can't really tell yet. Feels like there's a little play in this, but I'm not quite sure, like I said, if it's leaking from the seal to the housing or if it's the weep hole, but we'll get this out of here and take a look at it. Hey, so I stand corrected. Take the tensioner out. Problem with the tensioner, while you can get at the attachment bolts, when you try and get the old water pump out, and you got to try and break it loose, this ear, which is really the only thing you get a good swing on, cracks and falls off. So if you get the tensioner out of the way, you can get a straighter shot to try and break the water pump loose from the motor, from the housing. So it's only it's 2 8mm bolts, easy enough to do, but just a heads up. All right, so we got the old one out. It did fight us, did break. Me. It was stubborn coming out, but I got it out. Actually, it's not too mucked up on the inside, which I guess is a good sign of the coolant condition. But you can see some buildup of dried coolant on there, so I think this thing is leaking a little bit for a while. I was kind of looking the O-ring over. I'm not really seeing anything significant there. Something going on right there. But in any event, it is out. All right, everything is back together. Happy to say, no leftover parts. Like I said from the beginning, not really a difficult job. The hardest part was getting the old water pump to release from the housing. It's been in there since 2012, so it was being pretty stubborn. But overall, not really bad. Like I said, I thought I could sneak it out without the tensioner being pulled off, but you kind of need that access just to get back in there to get it pried out. So I got coolant in the reservoir. I'm going to have to bleed the system here. I'm going to get it fired up and, hope nothing leaks. We're just going to let her cook for a while. Alright, so it's been running for about 20 minutes, maybe a half hour while I kind of cleaned up the mess, got the tools picked up, hosed off the driveway over there because, of course, there's some spillage. Got it over here on a dry spot in the driveway, and I'm not seeing anything leaking, which I'm taking as a good sign that this took care of it. I know it's not the most exciting thing to be watching, but sometimes the basic stuff is what you got to do. So if there's anybody out there that's got a Ford Focus and might need to do a water pump, you got an idea what's ahead of you. Not difficult by any means. Like I said before, real basic hand tools. You don't need anything special. Hardest part was getting the old water pump to release from the housing. It did break a flange off of it, but it's the old one, so who cares? Reassembly is pretty straightforward. I think all in all, I maybe had 2 hours into this. If you've done these before, I'm sure you can get it done a lot quicker. The only problem I ran into in the end is I noticed that the tensioner pulley is making some noise. I wish I would have been paying attention because I would have picked that up right away because since it had to come off anyway, would have been a great time to replace it. So it's starting to get kind of nighttime out here. Mosquitoes are going to start coming out. I still got a little bit of tools to put away and things like that. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I know this wasn't probably the most exciting thing to be watching, but it's something to put out there. And like I said, maybe help somebody out. So, Corey from Buckle Up Garage. You can hit the like, subscribe, share what you see with your friends. I do appreciate it. And until the next episode, later.